Hello everyone, you're welcome to this series of videos where we're taking a look at how to use Refinitive Eikon to gather data. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Excel add-in and that functionality that provides with regard to using Excel to interrogate directly into the Refinitive Eikon databases. I suppose it's a quite efficient way to gather large amounts of data. However, it can be a little bit finicky to use the package. But you do get used to it with a little bit of experience and a little bit of, I suppose, pulling and dragging, you kind of can make your way around it. So I suppose without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you can see my Zoom screen there, I hope. I've got my Excel up and going. You can see that the Refinitive Eikon package is here, the tab for it. You can go in and look at that. You can see what pops up. You might have to click here. You might be offline. So if you're offline, just go in here and give your login credentials, and then you'll be up and running. Okay. So the first thing we need to do then when we're using Refinitive Eikon is we need to have a portfolio or a series of codes of companies, and then we need to get a series of codes for the data types that we're looking for. It can kind of all seem a little bit complex. However, part of what you see in front of you now allows us to gather all that kind of base level functionality data, gather that kind of data up without having to kind of know what the individual codes are themselves. So what I'll do then to put a portfolio together, I'm going to put something together very, I suppose, quick and dirty, and I'm not going to give it too much thought. You might, in your research, have to put a lot of thought into how you look at sample selection and what's in and what's out. So it might be a little bit more heartache to be gone through to gather up a portfolio and put it together. But I'm going to use this tool called a screener. And this gives me this kind of it then tells me how to go and do it, but I'm going to just click through all that. And there we go, end off. Okay, so I'm going to be using these items on the left to put together my portfolio. My currency is going to be in euro. You can include different, you can edit all this to include other universes. But I'm just looking at public companies. You can use public and private and various other ones as well. Okay. So first up then, I suppose the first filter that I'm going to use is just to get something, because there's thousands of public companies, tens of thousands, just to kind of get something that's a little bit more manageable. I'm going to look at only those companies that are in the UK and Ireland. So I know that the UK and Ireland comes up under the Northern European list. I'll go down here, I'll tick off Ireland, and I'll tick off the UK, and I'll hit done. And that gets added into the mix. It takes a little bit of time for the software, the internet, I suppose, to catch up. And there is my list of current companies. What I'll do next is I'll put in another filter. I'm going to add a market cap filter. And I want only at the moment I've got 2,000 companies. I only want companies that are over 100 million in market cap. Okay, so 100 million euros, and I just pop that in there. You can see you can change all this. It's greater than equal to, there's no scaling, whatever that means, and I just hit done on that. And that will reduce down my sample a little bit further. I'm down to 1,000. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to add another screen to this, and you can see there's various other filters all the way down along. And I'm going to add an industry filter, TRBC. If you Google it, you'll get to see how that particular taxonomy works. I'm going to add in that filter. I could have energy, basic material. So companies are all categorized into different categories. And this is this particular taxonomy. What I'm going to do actually is I want to exclude financial companies. And the only reason I want to do that is just show how it works, but also because financials do have a different kind of business model and balance sheet to most other companies. So I'm going to exclude, and down here, financials, and that's it done. And I have to go through all that. And now I'm left with a list, as you can see now in front of you. It's 500 companies. So, you know, that's a large enough old portfolio. So what I want to do now, I've more or less gotten to the end. Now, you'd probably have to do a lot more if you're doing a little piece of research and maybe be a little bit more prescriptive in how you might put together your portfolio, and you might have a particular rule that you're following. But what I'm going to, you can do various things with this. You can change the order, you can do all that within this. You can print it out, you can put it into a PDF. But what I'm going to do is I want to put it into Excel. So I'll just insert the screen here. Oops, what's on there? There it is. So it's now basically just caught what I have had and put it in here. And I'm going to, so you can see this. So just to show you what has kind of happened here is that there's a little piece of code in A1, which is where it threw it in. So that's the kind of the code that the that screener has generated, and that then went off and was run in the Eikon environment. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the information that's here, and I'm just going to put it, and the only reason I'm doing this is I'm going to put it into a second sheet. Let me just put it here. And I maybe need to take some of the, I need to get, I'm nearly there at the top. Okay, so the only reason I put this into a separate sheet is well, what can happen is that every time you go into your Refinitive Eikon into your worksheet, it could do a recalculation. And sometimes that can result in all your data being updated, particularly for capturing real-time data. So it can be beneficial to maybe remove that kind of automated refresh that goes on. And I usually do that by just taking all I've done is I've basically taken the data and I've eliminated this little piece of code, because now what I have is I've got to set up without that piece of code put into place. And let's just go back here and just make things look a little bit prettier. So what I have is I have got various data items. I have got the code for the company. I have got the company name. I've got the country of exchange. So you can see Gombe are there. I've got the market capitalization, and I've got the industry name. Now, some of these may or may not be important for your research, but that's what we've been provided with so far to date. What's probably of most importance from what we're going to be looking at is it's the code here, okay, for what we'll be doing. Okay. What I want to do now, so now I've got a portfolio and a set of codes. Now I want to gather some data with respect to that portfolio. I'm going to use the build formula function here. Now I have deliberately more or less started, I've just kind of moved across here because you'll get used to this after a while. Where you've last clicked in the spreadsheet, that's where it's going to throw the formula in. Okay, so I've moved across here. So let's just do, but you can change all that at a subsequent stage anyway. So I'm going to use the build formula functionality. Okay, so a couple of things I can do here. Well, the first thing is I have got to find an instrument that I want to get the data on. So the instrument is the company, effectively. So the company I want to get the data on, I have got a couple of, I can search just to do within Eikon search for the company, but I actually have a list of companies here on the left-hand side. So this piece here allows me to reference a cell, and I'm going to, here we go, I'm going to reference this cell here. So the first company I'll do, and then I'll do a little bit of trickery then to try and just copy it all the way down. So I'm going to select that. Okay, so for this, the next thing I need to do now, so you can see A3 is in, okay? And there's other ways you can go at this. This is not the only way you can do it. I just tend to follow the same thing every time when I'm doing it. The next thing I want to do then is I want to gather some data for that particular company. Now, there's a couple of ways So I got to specify what item of data I want. I can search. I can do a search. I want to get price. I want to get loan loss or whatever. It brings up my most recently used ones, but I'll show you how how you can maybe go into them in a bit more detail. I want to get some financial data on the company, and I want to get some balance sheet data on these companies, and it gives me a list. Okay. And what I want is, I think what we'll do is we'll gather the debt. So I'm kind of interested in finding out what is the total debt outstanding for various companies. You can see it already it tells me, it gives me a definition and kind of various other parameters on the item. So what's included in debt? It's notes payable, short-term debt, current portion of long-term debt, capital leases, total, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it gives you all that item. Now, what I want to do then is I want to set the parameters for what I want to get. And there's a series of parameters here. Most of these you won't even have to deal with. But what is important is that if you want to get more than one item, that you do click a series. And I want to get the last 5 financial years worth of debt for every company in my sample. Okay. So I'm now set up. I'm going to add that in, and it's put that in down. This is the formula as it looks. So it's going to A3, which is the code of the company. It then gets TR total debt outstanding, which is the code for total debt outstanding. And then it provides some of the other parameters as well. Okay, so we're pretty much there now. There's one or two more things we might need to look at. I'm going to look at, and what might help is the layout. So it gives a kind of an indicative layout. If you hit layout, it gives an indicative layout as to what you're going to be gathering. Now, I may want, okay, and you do have a kind of I suppose, a bit of flexibility then in how the data is going to look. I can transpose the data depending, do I want it vertically or horizontally? And I probably want it vertically. I don't necessarily want, I want the instrument here. So if I swap, I can see I've got I don't want the company name on top. And I don't, depending on what it is, I don't necessarily want to know what the data item is either. I might be titling this total debt, or I might be putting it elsewhere. Okay, but I might want to know the date. Or I could look at the financial period absolute. That might be better than the date. So I get financial year 23, 22, and so on. So it's the most recent 5 years worth of, or I could get financial period relative. Okay, so that might be a bit better. So I have the most recent financial year going back it's five lots, but going back to FY minus 4. Okay. Yeah, that looks okay to me now. So I'm going to okay that, and I'm going to insert it. And then it pops. Okay. Now, what I might want to do is I might just want to widen out these columns a little bit. And then what I might also want to do is I might just, to make it a little bit more readable. There we go. Now, so far, so good. The next thing then we want to do is you've got your code here, you've got all the data, but the code to capture all that data is up in H1. So it's up in H1 and it starts off at I3. Okay, now we now want to effectively copy all this down for numerous other the rest of our sample. So well, I'm just going to do a little bit of this is just basic Excel work now. I'm going to remove the absolute reference from this. I'm going to go like that. Okay, so all I've done is so when I copy down now, that A3 cell is going to copy down with me. And remember that A3 cell references the company code. Everything else, I want it to be more or less the same. There'll be one change I want to make. So I'm going to just do a quick copy. I'll just jump down a couple of lines here and see what it does. Oh my goodness, it's a little bit more in this company, which is Babcock. Okay, so now the problem I have here now is you might notice, and the reason why I deliberately went down a number of rows is because you can see that the financial year seems to be popping in. Okay, and what that's going to do is that unless I can find some way of removing this header, is that it's going to keep overwriting as it copies down. It's going to keep overwriting the next cell and the next cell, and I'll just be left with a whole load of FY zeros and FY minus ones. These are kind of little kind of tricks that you learn over time as you get used to using this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Refinitive Eikon. I'm already in the formula builder here, so I'll just hit the build formula. It should pop it up for me. Yep. So it's all down here, okay, and it doesn't seem okay, it seems to be there, right? Oh yeah, it just took a while for that to all filter through, and I'm going to go to the layout, and what I want is I want to remove the financial period relative. And I also then, it's now moved up again, another item that might come with a little bit of experience is that it's changed the destination cell. Now, I probably need to move that down to I10. I think yes, I can see Babcock is, because I stripped out a row, I've now changed the destination cell. I need that probably to be on row 10. So I'm just going to change that to I10. Well, H9, I think that might do it for me. I'm just going to go down a row and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, okay, and insert. Hopefully that'll work. It hasn't. I'm going to change that to, going to do it up here. I think I want it in I10. There it is. Okay, so now I have the Babcock data in I10, and I got a timestamp. The timestamp is usually fairly irrelevant unless you're doing, I don't know, something really high powered. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just copy that up a couple of rows. It'll take a while for the data to come in. It's retrieving that. Sometimes this can happen quite instantaneously. I don't know why it's kind of taking, there it goes. So you can see it's brought in all the next lot of companies, and I know I suppose one thing is I just got to make sure that everything is properly aligned up and all the company, everything. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down 500 odd rows, and then it's going to pull in all that data as well. Now again, this might take a little bit longer, and it'll populate up. Now there are some blanks, and then so you can see there's some zeros here. They might be worthy of further. There's a null here, which means there was no data, and there's a difference between a zero and some companies just don't have any debt. Who knows what's going on? So where you see the zeros, that might give rise to, you need to maybe check in a bit more detail, or where you see the nulls. Now you can always just eliminate those companies from your sample if they cause a problem. Okay, so that's all our companies done, all the way down to here. The next thing we might want now is, well, one thing, I'm just going to go, sorry about this, I'm a bit slow moving up. We could, because on our left here, I can now see there's a market. I have a market capitalization column here. I've got my most recent debt here. I could calculate for every company in my sample now, all these different companies. I could calculate a gearing, a kind of a market gearing, if I wanted to. Let's just do that now. As you know, it would be a measure of risk. based on the market value of equity as opposed to the book value of equity. So I'm going to have my current level of debt divided by my current level of debt plus my current market cap. And I just put that in as a percentage. So this, based on the current market cap, I can now go all the way down. Oh, the lights have just gone off here in the room. And I can see what companies are highly geared and what companies are not. Okay, so BT seems to be relatively highly geared there. And that might influence, you know, if I was trying to put together a portfolio of companies that would say relatively high risk versus, say, a portfolio of companies such as AG Bar here or Anglo-Eastern, I don't know what they are, Plantations. Ooh, don't know what they are. Sounds a little bit empire-ish, but they had no gearing. So that's one piece. The other thing I could do, by the way, also is, you know, that's well and good, but maybe I want to set up my portfolio based on the gearing that existed 4 or 5 years ago. So what I might do there in that instance is I might go again and I might go back into Refinitive Eikon. I might build a formula again. And in this case, I might want, I don't know where I'd find this, and I'll go market. You can see where I've got in a market cap. So there's various measures of market cap there. So there's one here. It says the on scale. Okay. That's not a million miles from what I want. You kind of just have to look into what the differences are for some of these items. The market capitalization of a security, the company market represents the sum of all the relevant issues levels by share types. Okay, so this looks at companies that have various things. That might be it. By the way, when it calculated earlier on, it called it company market cap. So I think this might be R1. I then go over to my parameters. And what I want is, I want this not as a series. I want it on a particular date. So I want to go down here and select a date. And the date I want to go back 5 years in time. So I want to go back to what was the market capitalization back in, we'll say, let me do it this way. I can actually just put in 2019. Next. Sorry. 2019. And I'll go for the third of the first, sorry, the American, I thought it was American dates. It's not. So I'm going to go for the 3rd of January, just in case there's an issue on the markets being closed. So I want to know what was the market capitalization of these companies at the start of January 2019. That's what I want. And it should okay that. So I've got my date put in now for that. I'm now going to go and add this in. Right. I'm now going to look at my layout. And it doesn't have a universe. Oh, yes. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get rid of that. I never gave it an instrument. So the instrument that I want to get, it's going to be way over here. I'm going to go back out to Excel. And it's not going to be R1. I'm going to go all the way back here to A3. And at this stage, I can maybe even get rid of the anchors, and I'm going to select that. Now, everything else, now that should drop it in. Everything else should be okay. I'm just going to check my layout. So there you can see it. Company market capitalization. There's the company. I'm going to maybe save myself a little bit of bother now, and I'm going to take out the field. And what I wanted to do is I wanted now, you're going to get the hang of this out over time. I wanted to start on S3 rather than S2 because the first company comes in on row 3. Okay, so I'm going to change this to destination cell S3. Select. And that's an OK, and that's an insert. Okay, so you can see there now that at the moment I've got, bear with me, sorry, it's just trying to move stuff around so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to just make it a little bit easier to read. So that was the market capitalization of Discover IE Group. And 268 million market cap January 2019. Okay. I am now going to go, this is where all the formulas were stored, and the data then appears on the right. So I'm now going to copy that all the way down the 500 odd rows. That's too many. Go up a bit. And I'm going to get the market capitalization for every company. You find that some of them mightn't be there because they mightn't have been in existence or whatever, but now I've got the market capitalization for every company. Everything lines up as it is. And I'm going to do it maybe, I'll do it over here. So this is market gearing 2024. And then I'm going to do market gearing 2019. So I am now going to figure out, well, how are those very same companies looking back in 2019 versus what they were looking like in 2024? It might be of use if I'm looking at some kind of analysis work. I'm just going to do a small, just to make things a little bit easier to see. So that's going to be the debt 5 years ago divided by the debt 5 years ago and the market capitalization 5 years ago. And I'm going to put that as a percentage, and you can see the very first company has reduced its gearing, has become less risky. Let me go down all the way down to the end here. And there you go. The numbers appear. The numbers are what they are. I don't think there's any reason to get to dwell on the numbers too much. But all I'm looking at is I've gathered a huge amount of data there for 500 companies. I've got a lot of information. I can now see how their debt profile has moved in a 5-year time frame. It may be of interest depending on kind of if you're involved in portfolio selection. But you can see different types of data that I've collected. I've collected some financial data. Going back a period of time, and I've also collected some market capitalization data way back in history as well too. Okay, so that gives us a reasonable sense of what's going on. I'm going to do one more little piece, and then we'll finish this video. So what I'm going to do is, at this point, by the way, also I would usually gather up this kind of data and put it into a spreadsheet that wouldn't have all this kind of coding stuff beside it, because there's a danger then when it comes back in tomorrow and the day after, that when Refinitive does that calculation, it'll update. Well, it won't update. These numbers will be static because they don't change, but this number will change. Okay, so your market capitalization number currently will update because that's a live capitalization number. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab all my codes again. I'll open up another sheet, put it in here. Now, that's just a little bit too much. I just want to size things up so that I know what I'm looking at. The names of the the names of the companies are important for us to kind of so that we can see what we're grappling with. But really what drives this is the code. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and this is probably something, depending again on your research, you can see I'm popping over there to H, wherever, to kind of get myself up and going. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to gather some price data. It's a fairly obvious kind of thing in any piece of kind of financial research that you'd be looking at price information. So again, I'm going to go back into my Refinitive Eikon. I'm going to build my formula. I'm going to search my instrument first. I'm going to go, again, I'm inside here in my instrument area. So I got to tell the tool what company do I want to get the price for. I'm going to reference a cell in my Excel. It won't be H1, it's going to be A3 is where I'm going to start. I'll take off the anchors. You can do that at a later stage anyway. And I am going to select. Okay, so there's A3 gone in here. I now need to figure out a data price. I now need to get the price, the closing price. You can see there's already a list of items that I have recently used, but they may not pop up for you. So you can either put in closing price or you can put in some kind of version of words that might capture that. Alternatively, if you go down to price and volume, it usually gives then, once you get into price and volume, the very first kind of row will give the most commonly used ones. And price close and volume and so on, they're obvious ones. But there's a whole load of other things you can capture as well too. You can scroll down through them all. Look, there's no end to it. But so it gives a definition. The last available closing price, if there are no trades, the most recently, and you can see what goes on down through all that. Okay, so that's price close. That's the first thing I want to do. So it gives me the definition. And for this particular company, by the way, DSCV, because it's on the London stock markets in British pennies. Okay. Parameters next, then, what do I want? Over what period do I want to get this price close? I could go for just as of now. That's the default. But I want to get it over a period of time. And you can do various, you can do a last, or you can do a start to an end. So from to, okay, and you can change all of these. You can do a date, okay, it's up to you, okay. So there's various kind of different things that you can do there. I'm not too concerned. I'm just going to, well, I suppose I am doing, I want to get some data, obviously. That's now going to get me the last 2 days. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to get it weekly. Okay, so I'm now set up to get the last 2 weeks. I am going to go back. You can go back as many weeks as you like, but I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to go back 208. I'll go for 208. You can just type it in as well too. Laziness has got the better of me. So 208 weeks, so 4 years. Well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to go 260, 5 years, which might be consistent with the 5 years worth of debt that I've just picked up. Okay. And you've got various other parameters, but I think we're good here. So that gives me price close. I wanted 260 weeks, 5 years. I'm going to add that in. Right. Okay, almost there then. And I'm just going to look at the layout. What does it do for me? No, that's not great because that's going to go down to, I effectively, depending on how you set up your spreadsheet, do you want the company names across the top and the prices down the side, or do you want to do the other way around? Now, at the moment, I would set up so the company names are on the side and I'll have the prices along the top. You can change this around, or you can do it, you can gather the data up first and then transpose it later. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose all this. One of the things, okay, so it's price close. Well, I now got to figure out what kind of, I'm looking down here at this little piece here. And okay, I want the date, and I'd like the date in the columns maybe. No, that's no good. Let's click off that, might give it to me. So what I have now is I have got the dates, and that looks like 2024. Okay, we're now early May 2025, so it's going back 26th, the 19th, and all the way back to the 5th or the 10th of May 2019. Okay, so it's nearly 5 years. I don't particularly want the field. I know it's price close. That's only taking up space for me. So I've got the company name and the period. Okay, each of the periods. So I'm going to pop that in. And I am going to insert that into my spreadsheet. And one of the things I might do, oh God, this is going to, you can see it, it goes all the way across. And one of the things I want to do, just to save it, is I just want to widen out these columns a little bit. And there you can see on column JI, anyway, whatever that is. So I'm all the way back across now into my spreadsheet as it looks. Okay, so it's 720 pence, 687, 740. So you can see the weekly price of this particular stock as it moves. So I can get the return on this stock if I want to get I can calculate a weekly, the weekly return, a daily. If I wanted to, I could have gotten daily data and calculated a daily return. What I want to do now is I want to be able to copy all this down. So to do that, I'm just going to go down. I'm going to pop down a little bit, and I've got Eikon. And that's row 9. So there's a few things now I want to change with this. I want to get rid of all of these particular guys here. I'm going to do that by going into, well, I can do it here. I can mess around with this, just this little piece here. But I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go over the formula, and I'm going to go into the the formula builder. I'm going to hit the layout, and it should pop it up. And I want to remove the date. I know when it does that, it changes it around for some reason. And I want the instrument to be here. Okay. Now I can see that it's come up onto destination cell I8. I want that to go to, I can see Avon is in row 9. So I want to change that to destination cell I9. Okay. I'll okay that, and I'll insert it. Okay, so now we've got Avon in the mix. So I think now we're in a position where we can do a little bit of copying. I've just copied that particular formula and repasted it up. And oh yes, that looks a little bit unusual. So effectively what that is, Excel has defaulted into viewing that as a date cell, and I'll just change it to a number. And that was actually Glomby, as it turned out. And then all I'm going to do now, so you can see I've got 5 years worth of prices there. I'm going to work down. And I'm going to just do, I just copied and pasted. So I just copied the cell with the formula in, pasted in, and now it just populates up. And the ones further down might be going in now. I'll just do a quick rundown to say, look, it looks like we've gotten to the end. So I've now just gotten price data for what is 500 companies. Now there's a lot of nulls in there. We'll have to look at those. 500 companies for 5 years. It's 133,000 data points that I've got in there. Now you did see that there was I'm going to go back across. You might then need to do a sense check on your data. I wouldn't worry too much about all these decimal points. It could be just to do with stock splits or whatever happens in the company in the history, because it recalculates going back historically. But if you see companies, and as you go over, you might see some nulls. Okay, so this particular company, that's the first of the nulls. That may be that on this particular date, that's when this company joined the stock market. I don't know what the company is. Chapel Down Group, don't know who they are. And they're obviously distillers and wineries, but you will see that there will be some nulls in there. Nulls means that there was no data. And if I go, I thought I saw a reasonable number down towards the end. If I go across, as you go back further in time, there's a greater, so there's a lot of nulls here. I'm trying to find whatever company that was. Kitwave Group, don't know who they are again, but it could be that could be the merger of two other companies. It could be a new company coming onto the market. Who knows? You might end up having to just do a sense check on your data at this stage to make sure that what you've gathered is usable. And you may end up eliminating some companies from your sample because of unavailability of data, because the data just doesn't exist. Look at that's I suppose part of a methodology piece rather than gathering data as we're doing here. So I suppose what we've looked at here then from a Refinitive Eikon perspective is we looked at how you screen the data just to get a portfolio and a list of, because we need this list of codes to get us up and running. And then we looked at a couple of different approaches to gathering data and how you can go about doing that. And that was in our formula builder. And the key pieces in the formula builder is you need to have an instrument. So it needs to reference to one of these codes. You need to have a data item. It's not picky. So you need, and to get a data, you either search the field or you can go down through the categories. There's hundreds of these things out there that you can gather. Look, there they go. No end to it. You can get data for pretty much anything that's on the platform. You then have to look at, well, once you have that data item, what parameters are you going to apply? You can go by weeks, by months, by dates. For financial data, it's usually annually anyway, and you just go back by financial year. And then you got to look at your layouts, and that's where it kind of gets, it's inside the layout that it's a bit of a black art, but you do get used to this. You can see how I kind of worked my way around it. I'm not in and out of this kind of package every day either. So every time I come in, I kind of nearly have to fiddle around with it, try and get used to it as well too. But you do generate a degree of proficiency over time. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing there. And I'm going to leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions, you can always pop me an email.